right. Well, I guess since it's like the most recent, I guess we can talk about Trump and
Ooh, that's always a good
and
place to
what
start.
was it?
Always a good place to start.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, for those of
Hey,
you
if you want, I will say, if you want hate comments, Trump is a great way to start off.
that is true. That is true. Although, like in the title of tonight's stream, I did leave a question. I did leave it as a question. It's like Trump peacemaker.
Nice.
Because I'm diplomatic like that.
Of course.
Yes, but for those of you who have, who are not living under a rock or currently in geosynchronous orbit above the Earth, yes, President Donald Trump met with Chairman Kim Jong Un in Singapore and supposedly came to a denuclearization agreement.
Yeah, that's pretty huge news.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always, when it comes to the North Koreans, I'm always skeptical as to whether or not they're actually going to keep their word.
Mm-hmm.
They've been liars for essentially 70 years. And the other thing too is there's rumor that they pretty much destroyed their own nuclear program.
Right.
And
Because
so it's like it brought them to the table anyways.
yeah, because the facilities were just meant for testing, and so like they tested, they refined, and I think they have like at least a couple of nuclear devices, and so like them closing down the testing facilities. It doesn't, it doesn't seem like a big thing since they've already, tested and more or less perfected the devices.
Yeah. So, like I said, it's there was a statement that I heard today where it's like it's not, time to necessarily like pop champagne bottles and get super excited, but it's definitely a positive start in the right direction with North Korea. And to me, like the ball's in their court. Like, if they're really serious, they'll follow through. And we'll just have to wait and see.
Right. Well, I mean, I think we came out more ahead than most people are willing to give credit to the president for.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree. I do agree with that.
Because we came in very on very good footing coming into this into negotiations and things, and we already got them to kind of give us stuff beforehand, like with the prisoners or Trump got them to release the prisoners for nothing,
Right, and I think the real, unlike in past negotiations with North Korea, we came in with all the leverage as we've always had all the leverage concerning the North Koreans, but for whatever reason, we have never acted like we have like all the leverage. And whatever you guys think about like Trump, he came in and was like, yeah, you know what, like, he got the those prisoners free for nothing, and when they were trying to play games, he's like, well, all right, well, fine.
Like when they try to bluff him by saying like, oh, you guys are having war games with Korea. We can't, that's an open like act of aggression towards North Korea, and like demanded that we not have war games anymore, and or they'd pull out of the talks, and it's like, okay, whatever, and those, and then again, yeah, and then so and then Trump, he calls them on that bluff, is like, okay, fine, whatever, no talks.
Go back to your shithole country.
Yeah, go. Right, and then as he's about to walk away, Kim is just like, oh, no, just kidding.
Yeah, I mean that's essentially what happened, and so like I said, it's
yeah, because I mean, there's no humility in a strong man acting weak. Which is essentially the United States. There's no point of us to pretend like we're weak. Especially since the world knows that I mean we were the only country to actually drop nuclear weapons in a time of war. And
True.
so they know that we have the capability, and and to a certain extent we do have the will, because we did drop these terrible devices of war.
I think there's saying is that a strong man is one that has all the power yet has the control to not use it. And honestly, North Korea, we could take that country in 10 minutes if we really wanted to, but we don't. And and I think it's so to come in we're they have something to they have something against us or whatever. It's they don't. We have all the strength, we have all the leverage, and finally we had a president who had the balls to come at the situation just like that. And I think, and because of that, there's finally some positive results that this is the first time in 70 some years that there's actually been any sort of progress with that country at all.
Right. And I mean, yeah, they're saying oh, we gave up, doing war games with South Korea, one of our allies. It's whoa, what does that really do? Except that, just kind of wave our dicks, in front of North Korea every year or so.
Yeah.
That's all that the war games were doing. It's just it's just showing, it's just waving our dicks at North Korea.
We didn't take any troops out of South Korea or anything like that, did we?
I don't believe so.
Oh yeah, then if that's the case, then okay,
at least not yet. Because I do think that would be the next step.
Because I looked at some of the terms of the agreement, and it didn't seem like that was the case. I think it was pretty much all North Korea giving up stuff.
Right, but that would be the next step if North Korea adheres to the agreement. Because if a year go, because I think the timeline is by next year they'd either have to start or be in the process of dismantling their nuclear facilities, and if that doesn't happen, then the agreement is null and void, and the U.S. goes back to doing war games with Korea.
Yeah, because my concern is because it's a country of notorious liars that the moment that we start pulling some of the troops out from South Korea, that they start doing stuff that it's okay, well, you completely broke the agreement. Now it goes back to being the same thing, which is it's all right. Well, obviously you can't be trusted, and then it's well, do we go into somewhat of an armed conflict, or if we just go back to status quo with North Korea, where we just keep putting sanctions on their country and starve them out.
Right. But I think one of the brilliant things that happened was that Trump brought China into this. you know, and was like, hey, you know, if North Korea you know, messes this up, then you know we're gonna take this out on you too.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know?
because the reality is that China's their only like real backer anymore.
Yeah, and like that, and like you know, the only reason why they did Singapore was like because I think Singapore does some like limited trading with North Korea.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I mean, I'm not necessarily, and you know, maybe it doesn't mean like you know we're gonna get into war with China, but you know, we're definitely gonna make them pay for it economically because you know the U.S. is one of the biggest you know traders with China,
Right.
and so if the Chinese don't help like uh, with like kind of keeping him on script, then uh, that's actually one of the things that Trump has proven, like that if you cross him, he will retaliate.
True.
I mean, he did it. He did it in ISIS. He did it to ISIS. He did it to Syria. Um, he has established a pattern of behavior that if you cross him or you do not live up to your live up to your word, then he will retaliate.
Yeah, I mean that's very true.
Yes, and and Kim Jong Un knows that like the U.S. could take over his country in 5 minutes.
Because they're all starving to death, and most
Yeah,
people will be
yeah.
like, "Oh, you want the country? Thank God."
Yeah,
I mean,
I
I can't think of 10 people that would back up Kim Jong Un.
Yeah, I mean, and like we wouldn't even have to. Yeah, we wouldn't even have to use nukes. All we'd have to do is show a force. A show of force. And like really, but to like really bring it to bear. Like I'm talking about like 50 destroyers. 10 carriers. Get the Marines to land on the beaches and have like
It's over.
have like a few squadron of F-22s fly over and just like it's just be like Kim will be presenting the keys and the deed over to okay, all yours.
Yeah, it's yeah. Well, I mean, it's like I said. I think it's a a step in the right direction,
Right.
and maybe at some point, the end to the Korean conflict. I mean, that'd be my hope.
Right. I mean, yeah, because
and potentially potentially reunifying Korea, but getting rid of the someone like the Kim dynasty, and just getting rid of those people and reunifying Korea.
Right. I mean, yes. Again, I mean, I've said this before, but right now, I would not want reunification. Only because
no, I don't think that's a good idea right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the right time for that, for that reunification, because first they got to put to bed the Korean War, which I don't think they have yet. I don't think
No.
I don't think a treaty has been drawn up or signed or anything like that between the two Koreas. But also, it'd just be a huge economic strain on the South because the South would then
supporting.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be kind of like a welfare state where the South would have to send money to the North, and there'd be more, and they'd be like maybe even new taxes on the people of South Korea, which would then create resentment and bitterness between
Right.
between the two Koreas. Yeah. But I mean, in terms of like kind of like a feel good social thing, I think it's a good thing because as time keeps going on, the people that it could really mean something to are being lost. And that being like people of my grandparents' generation and even like my parents' generation. That still has family. That lives in the South, but then they had family that was trapped in the North, and so as time goes on, like there'll be less and less of an emotional incentive to reunify.
Right.
And so, but
And then you
again,
can make the right steps to doing it the right way, and so
right, exactly,
doesn't hurt the economic prosperity of the South to get everyone back together.
right. I mean, precisely. Maybe I'm naive, but then that's also kind of looking at it like as if the North would completely take over. Because I think in the mind of Kim Jong Un, his idea of reunification is united Korea under him.
Oh yeah, I mean that's always been um, the goal from the beginning of the Korean War.
Mm-hmm.
We can't let that happen.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, when I heard about this last night, I half expected to hear, or the big story for this morning would have been like of all the news anchors at CNN and NBC how their heads exploded.